Hello, and welcome back to another episode of J-Pod, Jefferson School District's very own podcast, and I'm your host, Brad Capener, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Becca Mallory. Good morning, Becca. How are you today?
Good morning. This dreary weather is slowing me down a little bit, but we're doing good.
You know, I kind of like it. I don't know. A change. I don't know what it is, but anyway, any plans for the weekend?
We are building a backyard porch in my house, so a whole fancy setup. So that's our we're going to try in between the rainy weather, we're going to try to set up the rock and the concrete and put up some more fencing panels. It's going to be a very laborious weekend for me.
Nice. Excellent. Yeah, I'm going to try to just rest this weekend and go out to dinner with my wife, I think is my plan. So.
That sounds nice.
So our podcast is designed to strengthen the connection between our community and our schools, and we talk about events coming up, we describe our programs so you're well aware of how they function, and we interview students and teachers regarding various topics. But today, our special guest is our middle school principal, Scott Jantzi. Good morning, Scott.
Hello, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us today. Today, middle school is such a unique time in life. I've had so many adults share with me over the years how difficult middle school was for them. And that might be some of our listeners, that might be their experience as well. But the teachers who teach middle school wouldn't have it any other way. Right?
That's true.
They just love it. And they love the age, they love the energy, they love teaching at that level. And yourself, Scott, you have been an administrator in middle school now for quite a number of years. What is it that motivates both teachers to teach middle school grades, you think, and what draws you to be principal?
Well, that's an interesting question because I was actually a high school teacher for the most of my life.
Mm-hmm. Really? I didn't know that.
And I think middle school gets kind of a bad rap. Like you said, people look back on middle school, and oftentimes it's not the most favorite part of people's lives. I think as a middle school kid, you are growing and changing, and you start out as an 11-year-old sixth grader. Sometimes you're pretty small, and by the time you finish eighth grade, 3 years later, your body, your emotions, everything has gone through a great transition.
Yeah, huge growth spurt developmentally, and yeah, that's very true.
So I think what I've really come to like about it is just the kids and the age and working with them, because they're just so much fun, and they're still trusting, and they're not quite cynical yet. As a high school, they, a lot of times are too cool for school, but it's different at middle school, and I think teachers really connect with that too, because middle school teachers, they love their content areas. I don't think quite as much as high school teachers, but they love their content teachers, but they really love the kids, and I think they thrive on the connections that they develop with those kids. And again, for me, I was new to it 7 years ago, but I really see myself finishing out my career in middle school because it's been really good.
That's great. That's really great, and it's I completely agree. I don't know if you all know this, but my first actual teaching job was teaching 7th grade world history. I
did not know that.
And my actual first teaching job was teaching kindergarten. I did that for half a year, but that was on a long-term sub assignment. But when I got my teaching license, my first job was middle school, and I taught that for a couple years before I moved on into the high school. But I loved it. I thought the kids, like you said, they were innocent, and you could have a lot of fun with them. I remember building a stage, and we all acted out our history stuff, so we could still just do lots of crazy fun things. And then I noticed, though, in 8th grade, though, they start to get a little bit more serious. Is that right? So.
Yeah, I would say so too. And it's like you're saying, like our assemblies, kids are still really into them.
Yeah.
They really like doing those activities. But yeah, especially when they're getting 14, getting ready for 9th grade, you see a huge change. That's the most amazing thing. Coming to my school and you see sixth graders that look like they could still be in elementary, and you have some eighth graders that look like they could be in college. It's quite a difference.
I'll say the fun part, being a first grade teacher, and I was a first grade teacher for 6-7 years. So it was being able to be in a district position where I get to hop into the other schools. It's really fun to get to walk into the middle school and see students that I taught my first year. And I had the best compliment ever when I ran into one of my former students and she said, "You're still my favorite teacher." And I was like, that holds high leverage, being that you're in middle school now.
Oh, yeah, for
But
sure.
I agree. It's a lot of fun to get to see them at that older age. They're definitely still like school, but you can be a little more sarcastic with them. You can be a little more, not as much like per se adult personality, but a little more mature with them than you can elementary first graders. You still have to be very actress on stage. Big things. Yeah.
No, it's a really cool age, I think, and it's very unique. And everybody has to go through that time in their lives, and sometimes it's it's smooth, and other times it's really challenging, and there's just a lot of emotions, a lot of growth, like you said, taking place. So, but let's get down to kind of the the specifics of how middle school functions. I mean, because yes, our teachers are enjoying the age, they're building relationships, but when it comes to academics and supporting the social emotional growth of these students, that doesn't just happen out of thin air, right? I mean, there's some real intention that goes behind that. And so having you here is great, Scott, because, as the leader of the middle school, especially that consistent leadership over the last, that we're going on 6 years now, you've really seen some growth and some both in all areas of both academically and in social emotional. So I think I would love to get into a little bit more specifics of how that happens, if you could help us out with that. So when it comes to, let's start with we'll get to academics in a minute, but let's talk about social emotional support, because there's just such a need there, and we've talked about such a growth. How do you guys support teachers have to come in and teach their subject, but they're also working with kids in their emotional state, and so tell us a little bit about how that is that plays out at the middle school.
Well, and yes, they are. We're going to talk about academics in a moment, but they are so connected. They're like two sides of a coin. So we're looking at a book. We're doing a book study, and this Wednesday we talked about, and one of the quotes that we focused on, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something to the effect of is you can't learn if you're emotionally dysregulated. And so I had two instances yesterday. One where two kids were having an argument, and they were having some difficulties. So we had to separate the two and take them apart, and our counselor this morning is still following up on it. Now the kids, now that some times have passed, they're ready to do some conflict resolution. So sometimes it's interpersonal conflict. Another example I can think of yesterday is there was a young man who was just struggling with a math problem in math, and it was just too much for him. And he was just on the verge of tears. So the teacher called me down, and I went and got him, and we had a teacher who was on a prep period who was very good with math. So we just sat down with this kid, talked to him for a while. He wasn't ready to work on the math. He was not in that space. And I don't know what else was going on in his life, but this had kind of just pushed him over the edge. So she just spent some time talking with him, listening to him. And the interesting thing, that teacher came to me this morning, and the kid said to her, "I am ready to work on that math now." So again, there are two sides of the coin. If you are upset about something that happened with a friend, if you're upset at something that happened at home, or if you're sometimes kids are their own worst critics. So if you're really hard on yourself, then you're not going to be able to learn. And so we have some programs that we've really been focusing in our home rooms it's called the Ruler Project. And so, and some of those things are a graph where kids can label their own emotions. And another big one, our teacher said they want to focus on two things in Ruler. They want to work on the mood meter, where they can label their emotions, and they really want to focus on the meta moment. So it's
What's the meta moment?
meta moment and easier is just taking some time to reflect before you act. So sometimes it's like count to 10, but it's really thinking, taking some time before you just react.
So I think we could all use that.
Definitely.
Yes, but how do you guys teach that? I mean, how do you do it? Like, do you do it through a homeroom, like a lesson?
Yeah, we have our counselor that was with us last year, who since moved to California, and our present counselor. They have written a series of lesson plans, and so in homeroom, twice a week, they go over these ruler lesson plans, and they practice it with the kids. It's school-wide, so we have the mood meters in all of our classrooms, and all the kids, well, the sixth graders are just learning it, but they're learning about the meta moment, and so
Great.
I think it's been a positive thing.
That's really cool to hear. Now, for the listener, what Scott's talking about with this ruler program is actually a K-12 initiative. So at the elementary school, they're doing this as well, where they have these ruler mood meter boards that kids can go and talk about where they fall on the board that day. So teachers can have insight as to, like, if a kid is not having a good day, they know that. That's one good piece, because then we can then talk to that child and find out what's going on. And then the meta moment also is being, something that all levels are talking about too, because, when you get angry, sometimes you just respond. And sometimes that idea of just taking a minute, taking even a few seconds to just, before you act. But that's a hard one. I would imagine that'd be it would be easy to teach in a lesson, but maybe hard to consistently follow.
Well,
Yeah.
And I think it's important that our teachers do it too. Like, I know
Model
I
it.
appreciate that we learn it as a staff here, because there are times when I catch myself. In fact, this week, there are times when I caught myself snapping at somebody, but it was because I had other things going on and
Right.
my mind was just not in a good place, and it was just bad timing. And I failed to do a meta moment, but then I was able to do a post reaction of like, oh, I'm not upset because of what's happening right now. I'm upset because of something that's going on, and was able to kind of like identify that feeling. And I can't teach somebody how to do that if I don't know how to do that myself. So
Right.
I think it's cool that we're doing this district-wide staff and students to help make sure that we're practicing what we preach.
I'd like to point out two other things that we do. I want to give a shout out to Ms. Hart and to Mr. Stewart on this one. We have a program called WEB, Where Every Student Belongs, or Where Everybody Belongs. And eighth graders are chosen at the end of their seventh grade year. They come in for 2 days of training before the start of school year. And so the WEB leaders really kind of have two main goals. One is to welcome the sixth graders. Only the sixth graders come the first day.
That's important.
So
Yeah.
the eighth graders welcome them. They show them how to use their lockers. They do a bunch of fun activities with them. And so they're kind of just try to buddy up with kids so that sixth graders know it comes better coming from a peer than it does from a teacher.
Oh yeah.
I would imagine that would be really, really important, right? That sixth grade, coming into a new school,
Yeah.
coming into going into different periods throughout the day, it's got to be kind of anxiety ridden, right? It's just kind of stressful. So to have some mentors, some older kids that are taking you around and showing you how it all works, I imagine that's been really successful.
Yeah, it's been, and again, interestingly, this is something I learned going to middle school. One of the most stressful things for kids is their locker.
Their locker. I knew you were going to say that, because I was thinking that, like that whole concept of a locker,
Yeah.
and then the concept of like, instead of having one teacher all day, maybe leaving for music or PE in elementary, you've got 7 teachers now that you have to keep track of.
And it's a learning curve for some. We find notebooks in the hallway, on
Yeah.
benches, so they need to learn to carry stuff from class to class. I'd say something that's been also a real success, and I borrowed this from a colleague in a neighboring school district. I saw she had set up at her school something called a reset room. And the idea of a reset room is not a place where you go in trouble. It's a place you go not so you don't get into trouble.
Right. So a little preventative.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. So if you have a student, so maybe he's ideally identified on the ruler board, the mood meter, not having a good day, and you spoke to that student who just couldn't do math, wasn't there yet. Would that be somebody would they be sent to the reset room, or does the student say, I need to go to the reset room? I mean, how does that work?
I would say this is true in over 90% of the cases, but we pre-identify the kids. So we know them from the current 7th and 8th graders. We've already identified them the year before. And then for 6th graders, we identify the kids working with the elementary school who we think are going to need the reset room. So then we meet with the parents or call the parents so that they're on board too. So most of them are kids that we already know, and they can elect to go or they can be sent by the teachers, but it's a 10-minute max. It's not a place where you go to just escape.
I see.
But it's you go, you work with the reset room person.
So there's a
and then
teacher
you go
there or
back.
somebody?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's nice because all right, so it's just a place where you can chill out for a few minutes, decompress so that you can come back into class. Have you found that to be really successful?
Very successful. And then she also, sometimes kids just need to move a little bit. So she's got like some bands that they can do some stretching. Sometimes they have some therapy or put together Legos, but sometimes kids just need to have a little brain break. So yeah, I think it's been hugely successful, and I think it's really cut down on our number of citations and referrals.
That's great.
really great.
So I want to move us to academics a little bit. I mean, I think, when we think about middle school, especially as an educator, we often think about the support for emotions, right? Because of the age of the kids. But there's also this academic piece. And in middle school, what I have seen over the years is you can be really highly academic in a middle school and really take kids very far in there. So when it comes to academics at Jefferson Middle School, wouldn't mind just hearing overall, but with the remaining time we have left, maybe just focusing a little bit on mathematics, because let's say a incoming 6th grader may not come with 6th grade math. They may not be ready yet for that level of math. How do you then support kids in that way, and how do you take kids and grow them academically?
Yeah, so we know from our state scores that kids are not up to where we want them to be. However, part of the issue with that is that's taken one time in the year. It's taken at the very end of the year, and so you get
The SPECs.
Yeah, you get the SPEC. You get the scores back after the kids have already gone and moved on to another
very helpful.
teacher or another grade. So there's not really helpful for helping the kids get better. So we're really excited about a program called iExcel. Sometimes it's a hard sell for teachers to start something new, but this hasn't been. Teachers have been highly enthusiastic about it.
So it's a program, like a software program.
It's an adaptive software program. It really does several things. So they take a test that gives them their ability level. They do 2 of them actually, one in language arts and one in math, but we'll focus on the math one. And what I like about it is it's not a hard to understand score. It gives you your grade level, like you are at 4.7, so you're in the 4th grade, 7 months through the year, or you're in 6.2.
Is this overall or by standard, like different?
Both. So it gives you an overall score, so you might be at a 4.9. But when you look at it, then here's another big academic word, strands or categories. So in math, there's 6 different categories. So numbers and operation is one, fractions is one, measurement is one. Mm-hmm. So a kid might be really good at numbers and operations, but they struggle with fractions. And we've been finding fractions,
pretty
in fact,
common.
are one of the ones that they struggle in.
Yeah.
So it diagnoses what the issues are, but then it also gives you, the program is computer adaptive, so it finds out what your weaknesses are, and then it provides you extra practice through games and activities.
Yeah.
So
And
that
I love
you get
it too.
better in those areas.
I love also that it connects with our curriculum. So it's not even like an extra thing that teachers had to learn. It's just an extra support that we have that connects with the stuff we're currently using.
So we have a program where every student gets a diagnostic test at the beginning of the year to say where you're at overall and also by strand. And so if it says 4.9 or whatever, you're in like the 4th grade, close to 5th grade level. And then this program then gives you math problems. So you spend some time during the day each week working on this program, and it gives you at that level, and then it helps build you up to 6th grade level. Is that right?
Yeah, well, here's the issue. Last year we were just learning it. So we didn't give it at the first of the year. It was our kind of our pilot year. And our teachers, our math teachers started using it. But the issue is they have a lot of other math to cover.
Yeah.
And so they really didn't have a lot of time to give to IXL. So I made a really hard decision. And the hard decision was I felt like we couldn't just ignore the issue. Kids need extra help in math and they need extra help in reading. So the hard decision was I took away one semester of an elective. And I know electives are hugely important, so I didn't take that lightly. So in the place of a semester elective, all students are taking IXL.
Oh, good. Okay.
So some kids get it right now, half of the kids, and then the other half will get it second semester. So it gives the kids time with a teacher. So there's a teacher in the room helping them and keeping them on track.
And at instruction that is tailored to their, or skills that are tailored to what they need.
So in the class, every student has a Chromebook and they're all working on math, but they're all working at a different, so it's very different than a classroom where you're teaching a class on something and the teacher is teaching. This one is tailor-made to every one of the students. They're working on their weak areas.
Yeah.
I feel like we've just, hit the tip of an iceberg here. I mean, I feel like we could go on for another half hour, an hour, talking about middle school. Unfortunately, that is our time today. And Scott, I want to thank you for joining us and giving us some insight into middle school. I think middle school is a grade level we don't always talk about, and it's such a rich, vibrant level, and there's so much going on there and so much support. I want to do a call out to all the teachers at the middle level and all the support staff, and to you yourself, Scott, for all the work that you do, because it is making a difference in kids' emotional ability and able to self-regulate. It makes a difference in their academic and preparing them for high school. So
such a crucial age.
Such a crucial age. So thank you very much. This has been a great episode.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Until next time.
Goodbye.